Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony the Quano.
So, Tony, let's continue our summer movie blockbusters with a movie that is actually it's a little bit of a couple different genres of comedy all rolled into one.
Yes.
So
I would agree with this.
It starts out, sort of gross out guy humor kind of comedy, right?
It's
not
getting
not so much like gross out, but
it's not your Ace Ventura
no
type of gross out type movie.
No, but it's kind of like your Hangover style of comedy.
Correct.
And then it sort of morphs into a rom-com.
It does morph into a rom-com from the male perspective, I suppose you could say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that movie, of course, is Wedding Crashers.
Wedding Crashers, the Rebecca Dormanet, Dwight Yoakam, Jane Seymour classic.
Yes. Because those are the three main actors in this movie.
Granted, two of them are actually, I guess, just cameos, and the third one is slightly.
The third one is actually
has several scenes.
Yeah, the third one is actually a somewhat major character in the movie, or at least somewhat major side character in the movie. Yeah,
the first two just have a cameo in the first scene, and that's it.
Yeah. So, quick question though: is this our first Christopher Walken movie?
It is our first Christopher Walken movie, as far as I'm aware of.
I think it might be our first Christopher Walken movie. Let me do a quick...
So we have not done The Deer Hunter. We have not done Catch Me If You Can. We have not done Prophecy.
No.
We have not done Pulp Fiction, since we've talked about that before.
But we will. We will be doing it soon.
We have not done Click or Sleepy Hollow. We have not done Annie Hall, which was a small for him, but still. We did not do A View to a Kill.
We did not do Balls of Fury.
No, we did not. We have not done Batman Returns yet, which would have been one place where that could have happened.
Yes, but yeah,
we did not do the Johnny Depp classic Nick of Time.
Yeah, we have not done a Christopher Walken movie yet. So it's about time with a man who has done so many movies.
Christopher Walken movie.
With a man who has done so many movies in his
What's
career.
Funny about this, I was reading up on this. We have referenced Christopher Walken's SNL character.
Yes, we have.
But yeah, I was reading this earlier, and so apparently, when they were trying to cast the movie, a few people had thrown out the idea of Christopher Walken for his role, and a few other people were like, they didn't think that would work because they thought he was too serious of an actor. Which is strange because by the time I watched this movie, when this came out, I think it's appropriate. It's a 20-year-old movie at this point.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a good time to judge a comedy to see how well it stands up.
Yes, absolutely.
But even at that point, it's like, okay, yeah, I realize he won an Oscar, and then he was nominated again for Catch Me If You Can. But I never thought of him as that serious of an actor.
I mean, before this movie, he was in Joe Dirt. So,
not to mention Geely.
That too.
And the Country Bears.
He has an extensive filmography.
And it's even his, which when we referenced it before, his role in Pulp Fiction is played very much for comedic effect.
Yes, absolutely. And even in the unmade movie that came from our heads, that we hope to cast him in someday. Don't know if we need to explain more about that movie or not right now.
No. Yeah,
But it
and then
stars
by this
Christopher
point,
Walken.
so we mentioned that he's one of the more famous SNL hosts. He's hosted it SNL 8 times, right?
Yeah, he's one
By
of
the time
the.
this came out, he had hosted it 7 times by the time this came out.
Yeah. But no, he's a super serious actor.
But what's good about this is he can play serious.
Yes, he can.
You see it in Catch Me If You
absolutely
Can.
Yeah.
You see it in The Deer Hunter. And they do allow him some scenes here where he gets kind of real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they also allow him to be very funny.
Mm-hmm.
But enough about Christopher Walken for the moment. This movie is actually the Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson vehicle.
Yes.
Because the two of them have such terrific chemistry together.
Yes, they do. The
and
two
they
of them,
you
believe that the two of them are best friends that have known each other for most of their lives.
Right. And yeah, they are the driving force of this movie. I mean, granted, Rachel McAdams and especially Isla Fisher are also fantastic. And I mean, everyone, the supporting cast in this is very, very good. We'll get to the other ones shortly. But it doesn't work if you don't believe the two of them.
Yeah.
And they completely sell it.
Yep.
And they help make this timeless. And it's funny, it's been well over 10 years since I've seen this movie.
Me too.
I think I almost reached a point where we mentioned Wedding Crashers. And, another movie that was in that realm. Not Wedding Crashers. The Hangover, which we did last summer. But also like Knocked Up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Other movies of that time period where I probably ended up watching more. And so it's been a while since I've really watched this. And it was great to watch it again because I forgot a lot of the jokes that were in this movie.
Me too.
I remember the main jokes, right?
Yep.
But not like everything. And so it was nice to go back into it a little bit fresh to really enjoy kind of all the things I forgot about it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. Yeah. I think the last time I saw this movie was when we watched it in the apartment back in the day.
Yeah. So it's been a long time.
Back almost 20 years ago.
It's hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious. And there's a reason, like, in some ways I kind of started thinking, like, it's not really a forgotten classic, but like I kind of forgot about it a little bit. I remembered it, but because I prioritized other movies ahead of it, I kind of, I wouldn't say disrespected it, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of wish I would have watched it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, maybe not, because I found this hilarious this time.
Yeah. I mean, it's one definitely to watch, multiple times over some time. You don't necessarily have to watch it like every other day or even like more than like once every year or two, really. It's one that's definitely worth revisiting if you haven't seen it in a while.
It is. I can understand some people maybe being offended by certain aspects of it, and that's fine if you are, and I'm not going to judge off of that. There's some things that maybe have been slightly dated in terms of some attitudes, but overall, it's still terrific. And again, we talked about a few of the side characters. And there's one that we will hold off on because this person was uncredited. So, which was a terrific cameo at the time, and it's still a terrific cameo.
Yep.
I know we're going to spoil the movie, but I don't want to spoil this part yet if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, no.
If you have seen it, you probably know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But it's also, it's really like Bradley Cooper's first, like, it wasn't even a big role, it was a small role. And
he had been, before this, he had been in Wet Hot American Summer. That was his first movie role.
Yes, that was it.
But yeah, that was about it.
And I kind of appreciated watching this again because I don't think I've maybe watched it once since like The Hangover came out. And so to see how his career has gone since The Hangover was like this huge breakout for him, right? Just to kind of then come back to see him in this. and see how well he plays it.
Yeah. He's definitely really good at playing a douche.
Yes. Very good at playing a very douchey character.
But
Who's,
in
some ways,
he went on to play Raccoon.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like there's also Keir O'Donnell in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Ellen Dew, Ron Canada.
Ron Canada's always
You
great.
have cameos from James Carville and John McCain in this movie.
Yeah.
And what was the other name I was going to bring up? Oh, yes, Henry Gibson. I wanted to make sure we brought Henry Gibson because we did have him in The Burbs.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
We did that back in last fall. So if you want to go back and listen to our episode on The Burbs, go ahead and do that.
Yep.
Another actor that's kind of a character actor that we've seen, people may have seen in a lot of different movies or TV shows, is Larry Joe Campbell. Is also in this in one particular scene.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but it's been a while, and it's funny. I remember when this came out, so it was 20 years old now. So this is 2005. I was still in college, right? And I remember working somewhere, in the county, doing an internship, and most of the people that were in that office, they were probably in their 30s or so. And I remember this one guy in particular was saying, like, he was asking me, are you going to go see Wedding Crashers this weekend? I'm going to go see Wedding Crashers this weekend. Right? And I saw it that weekend, and he saw it that weekend, and we talked about that Monday after it came out. But yeah, it's it's funny. Like, there's certain parts of this have become kind of very quotable.
Yep.
And as you said, though, but because of that, I think there's a lot of parts of this movie that have kind of been forgotten.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to dive into this with you.
Yes, me too. Yeah, the first time I saw it was just one of those constant string of movies that we watched in the apartment. That was the first time I saw it, and then we watched it probably 4 or 5 times while we lived there.
Yeah, we definitely watched it quite a bit.
But yeah, that was the first time watching it there was my first time watching it.
We were a key demographic at that point.
Yes. Yes, we were. Yes, we were.
I mean, this is like what? Thinking about Vince Vaughn, like Owen Wilson. This is kind of at their peak. Like we mentioned already, Rachel McAdams and Isla Fisher. Like McAdams had The Notebook the year before this, I think.
I mean, this was early-ish in Rachel McAdams' career, and it's pretty early in Isla Fisher's career too.
It was her breakout was The Notebook, and so this was kind of like her second big movie. So it was kind of the one that kind of helped kind of cement herself as a leading lady, so to speak. And it's been interesting to see where her career has gone. She's had a stronger career than like Isla Fisher has had. And I didn't realize like Isla Fisher, I guess, had been somewhat of a following kind of in England and Australia. It was one of her first big like American role.
Yeah.
Let's see. So back to Mr. Vaughn. Like,
Vincent
he doesn't
Vaughn.
do as many anymore, right? I think the last movie I remember watching him in was Brawl in Cell Block 99. Which was a good movie. I know he's done some stuff in Curb Your Enthusiasm more recently.
Yeah, I think the last time that actually
Bad Monkey. He's been doing some TV stuff. True Detective, right?
Yes, that I was going to say. That's the last thing that I think True Detective season 2 was the last thing that I actually sat down and watched him in.
Because when this came out, obviously he had Old School. He had,
other than
Anchorman,
his
Zoolander.
Rudy.
He had his role in Psycho.
Yeah.
Pre-show, we talked about Lost World, right? Obviously, Swingers.
Actually, you know what? No, the last I think movie that I saw him in. I think I had to go in Freaky.
Okay.
Sort of Freaky Friday ripoff with a serial killer.
I remember that, yes.
Yeah.
Technically, the last thing I watched him in before this was Rudy.
Well, yeah.
But that's my own
But
personal
he wasn't a main character in that.
Yes.
But yeah.
But what did he have right before this? He had, that's right, he was in Starsky and Hutch. And after the, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I think we brought up the breakup. That was the one I remember right after this was the breakup with Jennifer Aniston.
Yep. I mean, of course, there's Old School, where he was with Owen Wilson's brother, Luke Wilson.
Luke Wilson. And Owen Wilson, again, like both Owen and Luke, they do a lot of the, they're kind of closely connected with Wes Anderson. Mm-hmm. So you can think about anything that he's done. And I mean, recently, he's got the new series out with Apple TV with Stick.
Yeah.
I haven't seen ads for that like everywhere. But that's a TV series, it's not a movie. Obviously, it was, Cars kind of became his other like thing that he's kind of as Lightning McQueen.
Yeah.
Playing himself. But that actually came out after the Wedding Crashers, right? That was 2006, I think, was the when the first Cars movie came out. I'm always going to think of him with like Night at the Museum as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking of him in
strangely enough,
Behind Enemy Lines.
Okay, there we go. Meet the Parents, right? Mm-hmm. So, again, also Zoolander.
Zoolander, yeah.
I remember he gets swallowed by an anaconda.
Spoiler alert.
He crashes on an asteroid in Armageddon. Also, spoiler alert. But obviously, two good actors at the time.
Yeah. And like you said, they had incredible chemistry in this movie.
Yeah, great chemistry at the perfect points in their career. And you could see how it became such a big hit. And I was reading up on it earlier today that I've forgotten that it was the first R-rated comedy that at the time when it was released, became, at least for North America, the highest grossing R-rated comedy.
Huh. Interesting.
Which obviously it's been surpassed by a few different movies. So, yeah. But what I like about it is that, as you said, it does kind of mix the genres a bit. It's not just a total gross out comedy. It's sincere and it has like heart.
Mm-hmm.
And like
it does. It's earned. It does have heart.
It's earned.
It has heart.
In parts because Owen Wilson has very good chemistry with Rachel McAdams.
Yes.
And Vince Vaughn has really good chemistry with Isla Fisher.
Yeah.
And so all of it is earned. Rachel McAdams does not have good chemistry with Bradley Cooper.
No.
Purposefully.
Yes, purposefully. Her character does not have good chemistry with his character.
Which you quickly understand why.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think I have a whole lot else to say to set it up.
I don't either. So let's get into it. So as always, spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about this entire movie, beginning, middle, and end. So if you have not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, then go ahead and pause the podcast, watch the movie, and come back and listen. If you have seen it or you just don't mind being spoiled, then keep on listening, but you have been warned, this movie will be spoiled.
It will be spoiled.
So we start out, as you mentioned before, with Dwight Yoakam and Rebecca De Mornay. And they're arguing with each other. about airline miles.
It's very, very heated.
Yes.
Like there's venom in this argument.
Yes, they're arguing about airline miles and who gets them.
I like how you're getting some of the credits, and it's very much in the wedding type font you would have on an invitation.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, like your my best friend's wedding, or the wedding planner, or any of those other wedding movies.
And at first they're not doing the airline miles. First, I think they're doing it about the dog.
Okay, yeah.
And then you see them, they're on opposite sides of this table, right? He's with his lawyer, she's with his lawyer, and you can kind of quickly understand that they're mediating their divorce settlement.
Yeah. So you have Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson sitting in the middle of this couple.
And they're like the
mediating.
Arbitrators. Yeah. They're mediating this thing, right? And I like how one of the first lines you hear is Dwight Yoakam asking Rebecca De Mornay to lick his left nut.
Yes.
Which I just love that Dwight Yoakam's in this, because there was a period when I was growing up where I listened to nothing but country music, and I particularly liked Dwight Yoakam. I think it's funny, the guy that sang "1,000 Miles from Nowhere" is just asking the lady from
to lick his left nut,
the hand that rocks the cradle. Because what's funny about her, by this point, it's probably been a while since she'd been a very established star, right? Like, I can't even think of it. I'll take a look at her filmography very quickly, right? Because we Backdraft, Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Three Musketeers, right? And then the most notable movie between then, which was what? Three Musketeers was 1993. Up until 2005, where she's in Wedding Crashers here. The most notable movie she was in was Identity.
Huh.
And that was a very big ensemble type movie.
Yes, it was. It was a good movie too. I enjoyed it.
It was a good movie. That might be a good one for our forgotten movies, or the hidden.
It might be those little hidden gems.
Yeah. And we not discussed that as a possibility for the hidden gems before when we discussed that. We might need to put that on that list and think about that.
We might have to. Yeah. I like that idea.
So, but yeah, they're fighting. They're going back and forth. Their lawyers are saying nothing.
They're just sitting there.
And so finally, Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn decide to chime in.
Yeah.
Right. They need to, try to remind them, like, hey, well, your marriage couldn't have been all bad because your wedding had to be great, right?
I mean, there had to be something good to it. Remember, let's see, good things. Your wedding had to have been great. And
I love how they just start talking about all the food,
reception, and crab cakes. Who can say no to crab cakes?
And as we're talking about this, Owen Wilson plays John Beckwith, and Vince Vaughn plays Jeremy Gray. As we said, they are wedding mediators, and also, as we find out, crashers. But yeah, like, you could say crab cakes. Like, I could eat crab cakes all day long.
Divorce mediators.
Yes, thank you.
They deal with
the music.
They deal with both ends of a marriage. They deal with both ends of a marriage. They crash the weddings, and then they mediate the divorces.
So yeah, when we talk about the wedding DJs or the wedding bands and all the dances that you might do, right?
They start singing "Shout."
I like that. They get to the medley of the different song, different classic dance songs. And Shout does come into play later in a montage.
Yes, it does. There is a montage in this movie.
They talk about how you do the electric slide.
And
then
which it's sad that the electric slide has been taken over by the cha-cha slide. But yeah,
I wouldn't know about that. But I haven't been to a wedding in a while.
Yeah,
It's been probably what 6 years, 6 years since I've been to a wedding.
Mhm.
This movie actually made me think about how, oh yeah, I kind of miss going to weddings.
Yeah, they are fun.
So then they finally start settling down things a little bit, right? Because then she gets upset, and what's her character's name? I'll bring that up very quickly since I have it on
Mrs.
here right
Kroger,
now. Mrs. Kroger,
Mr. and Mrs. Kroger.
and then she starts accusing him of cheating, and then
Yeah, because she wants the airline miles, and he says, "I earned those miles," and she's like, "Yeah, going to see your stripper."
And he's like, she was not a stripper. And she says her name was Chastity.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, come on. That name
is
ironic.
There's not too many non-strippers named Chastity.
I think at some point someone named their daughter that to try to ensure that did not happen. But then it's like the Streisand effect.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but then
it's the power of a name.
They just pull things down. It's like, hey, don't you just want to get this over with so you can feel free to bang Chastity, and you could go ahead and find some Latin guy and do some freaky stuff we've never tried before.
Yeah. I love Vince Vaughn's little monologue here. He's just going on and on. Just completely bullshitting the conversation. Just trying to get this thing over with.
I like how both of them have their own angles with this, and then also with their other end of the beginning end of their wedding angle, right? And later we discover, just in general, this is how they are. Like Vince Vaughn has a lot of monologues in this movie.
Yes, he does. I mean,
but he is the person to do the monologues.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn is a very monologue actor.
Yes.
Most of his roles.
Not. So like this is where they chose the right actors for the right characters.
Yes. But yeah, so it just gets to the point where
Dwight Yoakam just
is just like,
can you give her a glass of water?
Yeah, give her a glass of water. And then he's like, honey, you take the miles. And she's like, no, you take the miles. Or no. She's like, you take the miles. And he's like, no, honey, you take the miles. You can have them. I just want him to shut up.
And then it goes into nice little, upbeat wedding type music.
Mm-hmm.
And it cuts to Vince Vaughn's office.
Yes.
It's
Vince Vaughn's office. Jeremy's office.
Jeremy's office.
And his
secretary comes in with a red sleeping bag.
Red sleeping bag. That looks like it's way too small for him.
Yes. Vince Vaughn's a big dude.
Yeah. Yeah. He is tall. But yeah, this looks like a child-sized sleeping bag.
This sleeping bag would be okay for Joe Pesci.
Yes.
It's not okay for Vince Vaughn.
No. This sleeping bag would be perfect for Gary Coleman. But not for Vince Vaughn. Maybe Emmanuel Lewis.
So
it's a very small sleeping bag. Yes,
it's great for Linda Hunt.
Great for Linda Hunt, yes. Not Vince Vaughn. It is a very small sleeping bag.
Anyway, it's red.
Thankfully, we don't see it unrolled to see how small it is. But just looking at the size of that roll, it's a small sleeping bag. But anyway, so he needs it. So she
asks why.
She asks why, and he says, he's gonna go spend the night at John's house. And she thinks that's kind of weird that two grown men.
It's for his birthday also.
Yes, for his
And
birthday.
so it's
also,
like,
yes.
why is a grown man sleeping over at another grown man's house with a sleeping bag on his birthday?
And then Vince Vaughn proceeds to try to make her feel bad.
We get another Vince Vaughn monologue.
Yes. Where he explains that John, when he was a kid, when he was 10 years old, lost both of his parents in a horrible accident. And so
on his birthday.
On his birthday, yes. On his birthday. So Jeremy, being the good friend that he is, swore to never let John spend his birthday alone ever again.
Ever again. And she says, "Oh, that's so sweet." And then she's like, "I should introduce you to a friend of mine."
Mm-hmm.
And then we get another Vince Vaughn monologue.
Yes. So,
how awkward that would be, and how awkward these dates are, or these blind, how awkward these blind dates can be.
Yeah. So then he kind of, then he sends her out of his office with the sleeping bag, tells her to put it somewhere where John won't see it.
Well, I love how he gets into you do that awkward hug where both of your asses are hanging out, and then then you decide to kind of kiss, and then you try to decide well, are we gonna play just a tip or and see how it goes from there, and then it's like no. It's like like I said, he very politely asked.
Yes, he very politely asked her to leave. Yes, he's not rude about any of this stuff. He's not.
No.
Yeah. He's just very matter of fact.
Yes, very matter of fact. Good. And then, as you said, he asked her to make sure he doesn't see the sleeping bag. I guess he wants to make sure that it's a surprise. I don't know.
I guess even though it happens every year, so would it really be a surprise? The surprise would be if he didn't show up.
So and then finally we get Owen Wilson or
John Beckwith.
John Beckwith comes in, and
they start talking about how it's wedding season.
But yeah, well, it's like Christmas. Well, no, Jeremy, he throws him this little dossier.
Yeah, throws him a dossier.
It's a wedding season. John looks like, oh, well, like he thought he was going to forget that's wedding season coming up.
Yeah,
it's like, yes, let's go. It's like the next 3 weeks. It's like, I love. It's like they say it's the next 3 weeks, and then he says, "I've already got 17 lined up."
Yeah, 17 weddings in 3 weeks.
Like, how are they doing this? Because most weddings are Friday or Saturday. If it's Jewish, because we do see a Jewish one.
Yes, we
do.
do.
That's Sunday.
Yeah,
right. They're not. They don't.
Yeah, most weddings are on the weekend.
I would assume the ones that they would probably try to crash would be the ones that would be on the weekend. If someone's trying to do it on a Thursday or Monday, they're probably trying to save money and not inviting a lot of people.
Yeah, and they're probably doing it at the courthouse.
Yes. So it's entirely possible to go on the one that's going to be in the morning and one in the evening.
Yeah, that's very likely.
Possible.
Very likely.
So this is their annual tradition.
Then it also
wedding crashing.
They would also be working during the week. So
yes,
it would have to be weekends or evenings.
I love that he I guess overall, I mean maybe not always, but it seems like the way they set it up is that Jeremy's the one that kind of is the scout. That is he gathers the information.
Yeah, he's the one that does the research.
And yes, he does the recon, and he's like, or the research, and he's like, yeah, well, but 2 of them are crash bars. But don't worry, I got ourselves some Purple Hearts.
Purple Hearts, so we'll never have to pay for a drink.
I love it. He opens up a little display. Yeah, sure enough, 2 Purple Hearts in there.
Purple Hearts. Yeah. So I mean, Jeremy's definitely, the researcher. He's the one that sets it up. John's the one that knocks it down. He's the closer. So the two of them work really well together.
Yeah. And so then we cut to them, and we cut to them, and they go into the first one. And it's at a synagogue. Mm-hmm. It's a Jewish wedding, right?
Yes.
And I love how they do this because it makes me really want to go to a Jewish wedding. I've never been to a Jewish wedding. I've never been
to a Jewish wedding before either.
And this movie's always made me want to go to a Jewish wedding.
Yeah, they seem like a lot of fun.
Because, yeah, they're doing the different dances. They're breaking the glass at their feet. Mm-hmm. They're saying Mazel Tov.
L'chaim.
But look, I love how they make sure they have the little yarmulkes because they got to fit in. Because they got to be part of the family. They don't want to be, it's easier to pass off as some distant family member than some friend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's how they do it. And it's just this long montage of weddings. There's an Irish wedding. We're here to get drunk.
Yeah. We're here to get wasted. Seamus O'Toole.
I love how this is almost everyone they walk into. Also,
they've always got fake names.
Always fake names. And they generally pass themselves off as brothers.
Yeah.
They have that chemistry to be brothers. And I think easy. Again, they're two brothers of some distant relative. It's the way they play it. So yeah, they have what? And then we get like an Indian wedding. We get like a Spanish wedding. We get
we get a little bit of everything.
We get everything.
And
right?
Throughout this whole
thing. Then you get these different comments from different people like, oh, like the Indian one, like, oh yeah, they're the adopted ones.
Yeah, they're the adopted ones. Yeah. The two white guys there. But it really, goes into the whole, as long as you're committed to the bit, you can get people to believe anything.
Right. Yes. They fully go into it.
Some of these people really seem like they're, oh yeah, I remember you. Even though they've never met before.
I love how they have different careers also. There's like at one point they're chiropractors, another time one of them's a professional bullfighter.
Yeah. Yes.
And then sometimes I love how you see them just kind of mingling within the crowd just in general ways. They're doing shots, right? They're like the Jewish wedding, they're helping to hold like the bride's chair up as they're
holding
doing
chairs.
The dance, right? There's one where he's Jeremy is talking with a bunch of kids. Mm-hmm. He's showing them some papers. He's like, what do you do with this?
Roll doobies.
Like, you roll a fatty.
You roll a fatty.
It's like, how do you know that?
And then it cuts over to John and then it cuts back over to him. He's like making the paper burst into flames. He's doing magic.
He's just doing magic. Yes.
Yeah.
And again, this entire sequence of them mingling in the wedding. And then you get the montage where you cut into it's just starting to be shout. And all of that's just, it's the dancing aspect. It's just like, you think about Animal House, shout. I mean, you just got all these people having fun at a wedding.
They're just having fun, dancing, eating the cake, And
then you finally get to the point where they start eyeing different ladies.
Uh-huh. And then it shows just little bits of their interactions with these ladies. And, it just cuts through all these weddings. And then the montage becomes the ladies falling onto their beds.
All in the same manner.
Yes, all in the same manner. But, yeah. So it firmly establishes the fact that these two go and crash weddings to sleep with bridesmaids and other wedding guests.
Yes. Because, they figure there's, most chicks at weddings might be more disposed towards that at a wedding.
They be horny.
Nothing gets, anyhow.
Anyway, so finally they are at this last wedding after the montage. It is the wedding of the daughter of Senator Cleary.
Well, it's not the last one. Yeah,
or not Senator, Secretary.
There's finally
Cleary.
one
Sorry.
where this. Before we get to that, there is the point where John called one of these ladies by the wrong name.
Yes, that's right.
Afterwards,
that's right.
And she says, "So, would you say you're completely full of shit, or just 50%?"
And he's like, I'd like to say 50, but
I don't know. But then she leaves. And then you look at him and he seems kind of disappointed with himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so it cuts to a scene of them and they're in their monkey suits.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sitting on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, looking out from across the reflecting pool. They live in DC. Towards the Washington Monument. Jeremy's like, it was a heck of a season, pal. And then, John looks at him and is like, don't you think, aren't we starting to get a little too old for this? I'm too old for this shit.
I'm too old for this shit. We'll do that movie sometime, too.
Jeremy looks like, nah. One of these days you'll look back at it and it was like, we're young and we're stupid. Right? And John looks at it and it's like, well, we're not that young.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then, it cuts back and they're back at their offices and we're at John's office and Jeremy comes in and he throws a folder on his table. He's like, I got one last one.
It's always one
this
last
is gonna,
one. It's always one last one.
No matter what it is, there's always one last one.
There's always one
Could be
more.
Your last ship as a detective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the last one is always the one that goes wrong.
In this case, does it?
Ultimately, no. But it definitely does hit some bumps along the way.
But that's what he says. Don't you think this is kind of sleazy and irresponsible? That's what he said. Yeah. One of the things he says on the steps.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then Jeremy comes. It's like, yeah, but no, Christmas comes. He comes into the office like, yeah, Christmas come early, and he throws a file down. There's a magazine article about the Secretary of the Treasury.
Yes, the Secretary of the Treasury and his daughter is getting married.
Yes, his oldest daughter is getting married. Right, and Cleary's the last name.
Yes,
William Cleary.
Is played by Christopher Walken.
And Jeremy says, like, yeah, like, no, you've idolized this guy since business school. Right? It's like, this is going to be the Kentucky Derby of weddings. Like, don't back off on me on this one. We're going to make sure, we're going to do this one. And John keeps saying, like, I'm tired. What, but Jeremy keeps pushing. And John finally says, like, okay, well, we can't half-ass this. If we're going to do this, we got to go all the way on this one. Right? Because there's going to be, Secret Service, extra security. We can't mess around. Right? And so they agree to do it. Oh, that's right. They start arguing about different, weddings they've been to before. And I love how Jeremy just throws his hands up at some point and says, erroneous.
Yes, erroneous. Throwing out all these lawyer words.
Yeah. But they're going back and forth, and then at one point then Jeremy starts throwing out the rules for crashing.
Yes. So this is the one thing I think this movie got pretty tired pretty fast, was the rules.
Yes.
Always quoting the rules. Sure, it works great. Times. It works great for a few of them, but
yes, it works here at the beginning.
Yeah, they end up doing it like throughout the entire movie, and it's like that's just too much of rule references.
But the godfather of wedding crashing, Chaz Reinhold, has bequeathed the rules onto that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jeremy has met Chaz.
Yes, but John has never met Chaz.
Is not. And John just tells him, like, you keep talking about him, but like I don't even know if he actually exists. Right. So anyway, so they decide that, I think John finally gives in and decides that they will go ahead and crash this wedding. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they get there for the wedding and they're outside the church before they're going to go in. It's, big cathedral type church.
Yep.
And they're watching people go in. They're seeing John McCain, James Carville, greeting, the secretary, right? Christopher Walken.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeremy gives, file over, and John's looking it over. He's reading up on the other daughters. There's 3 daughters in this family, right?
Yeah.
The oldest one is getting married.
Oldest one's getting married. The other 2 are Clara and Gloria.
And as they're talking, he sees Claire kind of get out of the limo to start going in the church. And right away, he's infatuated with her.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like, oh, that's the one I want to. Mm-hmm. No, like he is smitten.
Claire is played by Rachel McAdams.
Yes.
And yeah, so she gets out of there and it's like love at first sight kind of thing. He's like
actually not listening to what Jeremy has to say. He's like, yeah. Right. And they do a brief thing where they have to decide what their backstory is. And we get the next Vince Vaughn monologue because he wants to be brothers that have an emerging maple syrup conglomerate.
Maple syrup conglomerate. And John's like, no, we're not doing maple syrup. He's like,
and Jeremy's like, I love maple syrup.
I know everything about maple syrup. I love it on my pancakes. I love it. I put it on everything.
Which is perfect because later in this movie, he will douse his entire plate.
Yes.
In maple syrup.
He will. He will because he loves it. Because he loves maple syrup. But no, John insists that they are investment bankers.
From Vermont.
It's like, no.
Keep this simple.
Yeah, from New Hampshire. Investment bankers from New Hampshire. And and Jeremy, he's like, no, let's switch it to Vermont and maple syrup.
It's like, no, but not like that's too much of a Hail Mary. Like that's getting far too deeper and we had to start answering way more questions about maple syrup.
Yeah.
And like for this is too serious. Like this is too dangerous of a possibility. That we just need to keep it as simple as possible, essentially.
So reluctantly, Jeremy agrees. Investment bankers from New Hampshire.
They get, so next thing you know, they're in the church and they're looking around at different people.
The sons of Uncle Ned and Aunt Liz.
Yeah, and this one guy sits next to him. He's like, "Oh, how are you doing? Like, how are you really?" And they're sitting on the groom's side, right? And then so the guy's like, "Oh, yeah, how's the family doing?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, well, she sends her regards."
Like,
and he's like, "Well,
she's dead."
Like, how? She's been dead.
Yeah. Like, and then John chimes in
from the grave.
From the grave,
we become very spiritual. So they kind of argue about it, and John's still stuck on Claire, but Jeremy's looking around and he sees this woman with this giant hat.
Yeah, he sees this woman with a giant hat, and he's like, "Oh,
bingo." And she kind of looks at him. They kind of make eye contact. They argue, and then
John's
he mentions this.
You never
this
go
lady
with
to
somebody
John
who's wearing a hat to a wedding.
They're
too stuck.
Jeremy's like, well. That woman with the giant hat I fucked the shit out of me. And he says it's really loudly.
So everybody around him just starts looking at him.
they start arguing a little bit again. And finally, Jeremy just starts to yell, I can't help it. I'm a coxman. He says this really loudly. And again, everyone looks. But then they have to quiet down because now it's the procession.
Yes, now it's the procession.
Right. And it's the oldest daughter of Secretary Cleary, right? Who's, again, played by, the daughter, but Secretary Cleary is played by Christopher Walken.
The oldest daughter, Christina Cleary, is played by Jennifer Alden.
And yes, and she has a smaller role. So it's pretty much the wedding.
Pretty much.
So, she gets up as they're walking up, right? They have them bet about that she's going to be a crier as soon as she gets up to the altar, right?
Yeah.
And John bets that she will, and Jeremy's like, okay, right? She gets up and she starts crying.
No, she doesn't just start crying. She starts bawling.
So Jeremy gives him 20 or whatever, and John's just kind of shooting like a gunslinger. It's like, that's right. So it goes to the wedding, right?
But
and
the priest, John can't keep his eyes off of Claire, like the whole time.
The priest, Father O'Neill, Henry Gibson, he's the priest, and as he said, John can't keep his eyes off of Claire, right? So it finally gets to the vows, right? And so the father is just like, they decide to write their own vows in nautical language because they both love sailing.
Yes. So they start spouting off all these nautical terms in their vows. And Claire can't hold it in. She just starts laughing right in the middle of the vows. And everybody keeps looking at her.
She tries to make it into a call. She's like, excuse me.
But every time one of them says any nautical term, she just snorts a little bit and just laughs.
She finally has to turn around. And as they finally do their I do's and they kiss, she turns, she starts smiling and she's laughing and, smiling kind of joyfully at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So then we're going to cut to the reception. And, so as I said, the movie takes place in D.C.
Yeah.
But not all of it, right? Because D.C. is just a city.
Yep.
It's not part of a state. It's surrounded by two states, right? Virginia and Maryland. And so it has established that Cleary lives in Maryland. And you can kind of see where this reception is. It's on the water.
So they are looking at the gift table because John saw that Claire was taking a present over to the table. So he sort of meets her over there.
And the first one he looks at, that's a fondue set. It's like, excuse me, it's a fondue set, right? And so she's kind of impressed.
He's like, well,
how do you know?
I'm a little bit psychic. And she's like, okay, well, what about this one? Knife set. What about this one? Place settings.
They get to the small ones like massage oils and Kama Sutra, some wacky ant.
Yeah, some wacky ant.
And then she looks at the little tab and it's from an ant.
It's from Ant, whatever. She's like, wow, you're good. He's like, yeah, but it only extends to party gifts. To worthless party gifts.
But, he's, well, it's funny. Not every wedding do you actually open the gifts there. But maybe he's been to enough where he's seen them open the gifts and he can get a sense of what they are.
Or maybe he just has an idea of,
enough wedding registries. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he watches Price is Right a lot and he just knows.
He's like Barney
goods.
Simpson.
Yeah.
He
knows
it all.
Consumer goods. And but anyway, so they sort of laugh about it a little bit.
But so he introduces himself as John Ryan here.
Yes, John Ryan. So it's at the weddings before, during the montage and all that, several of them, they used completely fake names, fake first and last names. This one, they're going by their real first names.
Yes.
But they're going by the last name Ryan.
Very, again, John and Jeremy, John's a very generic first name, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And at the time, given Vince Vaughn's age, Jeremy is a very feasible name, right? And Ryan's a nice, common enough last name that it could easily be passed off and not being like, John Santino.
Or, and it's not something like John Smith, or that would be a dead giveaway.
Yes.
Because that's just the cliche. But
so, I'm John Doe. Really? Are you serious? Yes. My dad was a cold case detective. Anyway.
John Doe Smith.
So, John is showing off his gift guessing skills to Claire. Jeremy said he was going to focus on, he has caught the eye of
Gloria,
Claire's sister, right? And he's going to show off his balloon making skill
with the kids.
Kids.
He's making balloon animals for the kids.
Right. And so you see him there and he's making various balloon animals.
And then this one kid, he makes a dog. And then this one kid walks up. He's like, I want a bike. I want a bicycle.
It's like, well, I can't give you a bicycle.
I can't give you a bicycle. This guy needs way too many balloons.
He looks like,
he's like, make me a bike, clown.
that's my favorite. I was like, they go back and forth. Like, he's starting to argue with like this 8-year-old.
Yeah.
And the 8-year-old just finally, he just finishes like, make me a bike, clown. Like, he's not going to win this. And I think, and I guess that's the part where they forgot. It's like, some of these kids are very, very wealthy and probably very, very spoiled.
Yeah. And so this whole time he's sort of making eyes with Gloria across the area. I mean, I would say across the room, but they're outside.
Yeah, they're outside, but they're not really kind of far, right? There's a large tent over the main area, but there's also a grassy area, and and she can see him, and she seems kind of intrigued by how he's responding to everything.
Yeah. He's across the dance floor. But yeah, so she's kind of watching what's going on over there. And finally he just gives in and he makes the kid a bike. He has twine. Yes,
to
make the spokes for the wheels. And yeah, he gives it's not just a balloon bike. It is a life-size balloon bike.
No, it is a replica.
If it were strong enough,
it is the scale.
If it were strong enough, the kid could climb on it and ride away.
The kid could have, yes, exactly. And then the kid gets it, and he seems disgusted and walks away. Ungrateful little bastard.
Yeah, ungrateful little bastard. But that is enough for Gloria to come over, be like, "Oh, that's impressive."
Like, what else can he make? And so he goes through a few things, and it's like, oh, well, it's like, it was like, or I could give you a dance. It's like, well, that's what I really want. Yeah. And so then it has a little montage of them dancing, and he's got all the moves.
Mm-hmm. He's got all the moves
on this dance floor.
Every one of the moves.
And meanwhile, Secretary Cleary is watching them on the dance floor. Right. And then finally, John decides, well, he needs to butter up Secretary Cleary.
He's got to butter up Cleary.
Walks over to him and starts talking about the different academic.
So he talks about
articles he's written.
Yes, he talks to him.
Speeches he's given.
I read your paper on whatever, and I really enjoyed it. And Cleary's like, you read my paper? It's like, yeah, I read it in business school. And he's like, have a seat.
I thought this and this. It's like, if only we get Congress on board. It's like, yes. It's like, how about we go out? Then he's like, after that, it's like, how about we go have a stogie together? And Clara sees this. He's like, oh, wow, they're really making an impression. Like, you're going to go smoke with my dad? I love how they're smoking, right? And then we don't realize this yet, but he also has a son.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he does. Todd.
And Todd's sitting on this dock.
Played by Keira O'Donnell.
And he's like, yeah. And then, he's talking briefly, and then they see the son, and Todd just yells out, it's like, Death! You are my bitch lover. Yeah.
Todd's an interesting fellow.
I love how walking, just like, you tell it, Todd. Tell that mean notion.
You tell it, Todd. And only the way that Christopher Walken can say it.
Right. So we get Claire and John, they meet back up again. And he finds out that she's the middle daughter, right? So she's the maid of honor.
Yeah, because she comes up. They meet up again because she comes out to let her dad know that he's needed.
Oh, that's right.
And that's so right. Cleary leaves.
She talks
Claire
about
and
the
John
speech that she's supposed to give.
Yes, she starts about her toast,
and she's going to make this joke about the two of them.
And I didn't think anybody could love my sister as much as she loves herself until I met Craig. And she thinks it's hilarious. But John's
he's like, no,
you do not want to do that. You'll get crickets.
It's like, do it from the heart instead.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, people like funny. He's like, no, people like funny about little things.
And but before that, he's like, well, she asks him, Does she ask him what he thinks true love is, or does he just volunteer that? But anyway, so
I think he volunteers it.
Yeah, because
that's right.
Because he's like, true love. The way I see it,
it's the intersection.
True love is the intersection of one heart.
The intersection of two different people's counterpoint.
Yeah, no, it's one heart finding its counterpoint in another, something like that.
Yes, that's what it is.
And so then she goes into this, she wants to do this joke.
Yeah, no, he like, volunteers it because he's saying you gotta go from the heart. Okay. You need to make it meaningful.
Yeah.
And that's how because I guess he doesn't necessarily volunteer it. She doesn't ask him what he thinks true love is. But she does ask him kind of like, what would you say?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how he says it.
Yeah. So it cuts to finally they get to the scene. They're doing the toast. The first person doing the toast is the best man, and I love it. And he's like, "What's her fiance or her now husband's name?" Craig.
And this
Craig.
That's right. It's like Craig helped me with my sobriety, even after 9 times in rehab.
Yeah, I love it. And that is Larry Joe Campbell, by the way.
Yes. So this is one of the scenes where I kind of forgot about his interaction here, right? This is really funny. Like, again, he really helped me after 9 times in rehab.
Yeah. And he's like hugging him and hanging off him. And he's like almost crying.
I love you, Craig. But this is actually a really good point. It's there is a difference between what the best man's going to say and what
what the maid of honor is going to say.
And something kind of like this for the best man, it's not as it's it's more appropriate. And it's hilarious. Right. So then it cuts to Claire and she starts with a joke.
And she starts with exactly what she said she was going to start with. She's like, I never knew that my sister would ever find anybody that would love her as much as she loves herself until I've met Craig. And then crickets.
And she's like,
nobody, everybody
trying
just
to think
blank
about what
stares.
to say next.
And then she goes on and
she sees him across there, and
she has another joke that she tells.
That's right. That falls flat too.
And that falls flat too. And you can tell she's starting to panic. And she looks over and she catches John's eye, and John points to his heart.
And he's standing there, and he just points to his heart. That's right.
Points to his heart. And she stops.
And so she repeats that
breathes.
line of his.
Yeah, she stops and she breathes, and then she repeats the whole love counterpoint thing. Heart finding counterpoint another. And
then she just finally says, I'm so glad that my big sister found hers.
Yeah. And then everybody did a 180 because they were all getting ready to run her off the stage, right?
And then start throwing
tomatoes
at her and everything.
Throwing rotten fruit and vegetables at her. And then the whole love's counterpoint thing changed their minds. It lands and everyone's like, oh.
Right. He probably actually heard that at a wedding.
Probably. He's been to enough of them.
So I forget if this happens during the reception earlier or after. So there's a scene where, so Secretary Cleary, his wife, is
played by Jane Seymour.
Played by Jane
Kathleen Cleary.
Seymour. Kathleen, thank you. I was looking for her first name.
Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman.
Yeah. So she walks up to him. I think this is beforehand, after he first sees Claire at the table of gifts, and she starts hitting on him.
Yes. She starts hitting on him. Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman starts hitting on John.
Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman starts hitting on Owen Wilson. Yes.
So,
and then she kind of this is
she's like the secretary and I have been married for 30 years. We've been faithful for two of them.
We've been only faithful for 2 of them.
We've been faithful for 2 of them.
And he's like, wait. He's actually taken aback by excuse me.
Yeah, he's like, what?
She's like, see you later. So, but that's right. So what we kind of forgot is then, Jeremy and what's Isla Fisher's character's name?
Gloria.
They are actually not in this scene. because they're on the beach.
Yes, they're on the beach. They're on the beach getting sand everywhere.
Hey. If Hayden Christensen had been in this movie...
Oh, he wouldn't have gone anywhere near that
different.
beach. But no, they decided to go the Keanu Reeves route.
Lori Petty route.
Keanu Reeves.
Listen to our Point Break episode with Tim Robinson. So it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's like, you're a dude. Calm down.
It's coarse and rough and irritating. It's everywhere. But anyway, so
be a man like Keanu. Come on. So, she kind of realizes that, but before that, she's like, the first thing she gets up, she's like, I always knew my first time would be on a beach. He's like, wait, what? It's like, and then she just nods enthusiastically at him.
Yeah.
She's like, you serious? She's like, yes. It's like, I'm going to be so happy.
And then he's just thinking, what did I just get myself into?
And then they get separated. And then before this, and then he gets up, they get back to the actual reception and he sees John. And he's like, John, we got to get out of here.
We got a stage 5 clinger.
5-stage clinger.
Stage 5 clinger.
Stage 5, yeah, not 5 stage. Stage 5. It's like, what? It's like, no, like, I need more time. I need to close this out. It's like no.
Because
that's
so
he
said he needed more time because when he's talking to Claire, then her boyfriend came up.
That's it. Played by Bradley Cooper.
Yes. Played by Bradley Cooper.
He has such a
he's got a weird
name for his character.
Sack Lodge. Not Zach, Sack with an S. Sack Lodge is his name.
His dad just looked down and was like, I got a sack. And it's in a lodge. Anyway.
Yeah, so John and Claire are talking. They're kind of flirting a little bit.
John meets Sack after the toast.
Yeah. And so
right. And it's played by Bradley Cooper, as we said.
Sack comes up and, excuses Claire so that he can take her with him. She introduces him to John.
Right. And then he's disappointed. You see it falling. And it's not just because he just wants to.
No, it's because he actually feels something for this girl.
He likes her. Yeah. He wants to know her.
He actually feels something for her. And finding out that she has a boyfriend. It's like that.
Butterflies happening.
Yeah. So you can tell. You can see.
You can tell. He knows already. This guy's name is Sack Lodge.
Yeah. That he's just a douche.
But then Jeremy comes. It's like, we got to go. I got a stage 5 clinger. It's like no, I need more time. Like, no, rule whatever. It's like we got to the reception and that's it. And then it's like no overtime. There's no overtime. It's like never leave a crasher behind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when finally, what's this Fisher's character's name?
Gloria. That's
Gloria. It's like we're all going back to our house. And Dad said he could come, and he hasn't said that yet.
Yeah, he hasn't said that yet.
Secretary Clear is not.
No, he has not said that yet.
Yeah, there's gonna be some family members, a few friends. It's like, you gotta come with us. And John's like,
you gotta come with us for the weekend. And John's like,
definitely come.
Yeah, we can definitely come. And Jeremy's like, no, I don't think we can. We gotta. It's like
no, I'm gonna go tell my dad. It's gonna be okay. And then
so she goes over and he says no. He clearly says no, and then she starts throwing
like a toddler.
She starts throwing a tantrum,
stopping her feet, puts her fingers in her ears, and blows out her cheeks.
Starts throwing a tantrum until he says yes.
And of course, Daddy can't say yes to his baby girl.
He can't say no to his baby girl.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I can't say. Can't say no to his baby girl.
Yeah. So she runs over all excited.
And then
he said yes.
And they're looking at this. They could tell he's saying no.
Yeah.
He sees. They
Yeah.
see everything happen. It's like he would love for you to come.
He'd love for you to come.
And she just jumps into Jeremy's arms. And he's like, oh gosh, right? So yeah, they're all on this.
And then Jeremy's like, oh, we can't come. We don't have anything to wear. And she's like, oh, it's okay. We got everything you'll need. They have Vince Vaughn's size. I get that they could have clothes that would fit Owen Wilson because he's more average sized. But Vince Vaughn is a tall man.
Hey, we eventually get she was able to talk with their butler. We see later.
Yes.
And he just quietly took out his little measuring tape.
Maybe.
And quickly tailored something for him.
Tailored something or went to the local shop and picked something up.
Anyway. So, they're on the boat and they're going over, and at some point, as we find out later, that the two of them went down below deck with everybody up top.
Yep.
Because as you find out later, Jeremy gets drained.
Yeah. He was below deck for 45 minutes. So they get off the boat.
Sorry.
And they're so they get off the boat, and he's telling John, she took me below deck for 45 minutes. I'm drained. And she's running out to him and hanging off him again. But they get to the house, and they decide that they're going to have their traditional touch football game.
Touch football game.
Football, yes. Touch.
Very
football.
loose terms of touch.
Yes. So.
And I like how when they get out, like the clothes that they give John and Jeremy are definitely not conducive to playing football.
No, they are very preppy. Sweater vests.
They look like they're about to go on a boat.
Like that. Yes, they look like they're about to go on a boat. Meanwhile, Sack is in a rugby shirt. Everybody else is, Claire is in a t-shirt and t-shirt and shorts, and everybody else is
everyone's
comfortable
playing.
clothes.
Like the girls are playing this too. Well, not Jane Seymour. She's back with her cocktail.
Yes.
Watching.
Yes. Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman has her cocktail and she's watching the game. She's going and getting ready for a surgery she's got later.
That's right. And one of their, I guess there's a family friend there or a cousin. I don't think they ever explain his relationship, but his name is Flip.
Mm-hmm. Flip. Another douchey name.
Played by Carson Elrod. And Carson Elrod, hey, look at this. Carson Elrod was born in Topeka.
Oh, interesting.
And he went to the University of Kansas.
Interesting.
What do you know?
That's right in my backyard. Well, used to be right in my backyard. No, it's a few miles away.
Not a lot of other, really, done some TV roles, but nothing super notable.
Yeah,
nothing
that's the thing.
Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.
Yeah. So, Flip, they never explain how he's connected to them. But they all like him. No. He's always been, he seems like he's always been on this trip with them every year.
Yes. I mean, he's definitely friends with Tank.
Yeah.
Like Tank and him know each other because they get intense about this football game. Right? Because you're going to have Cleary, Tank, and Flip, and Claire, they're on one team. You get John and Jeremy on the other team with who else is on their team?
So John, Jeremy, and Gloria is on their team, I think. And then I think they got one other person that we never really meet.
Yeah. So the first thing that happens is that, this is the first play, John and
Oh, and it's trap.
Again,
it's trap, not trip. By the way,
trap. Sorry,
trap.
Thank you. Yes, trap. It makes sense that Claire is not on the same team as John because Claire will be on the same team as Sack.
Yeah,
since they're an item.
Since they're an item,
right? But so Jeremy's gonna be quarterback. John's wide receiver, right? And he's too busy still flirting with Claire to listen to anything that happens.
John, flirting with her right in front of her boyfriend.
Yes. Hey, he's too busy. Yeah, testosterone.
He's too busy being in the game.
He's getting ready and everything, right? And it's so then Flip comes in and he sacks Jeremy like really hard, right?
Yeah, like knocks him
the
on
iconic line. Crab cakes in football. That's what Maryland does. Right. So, we finally we get another play, and again, it's almost the same thing, but this time it's Tank knocking the shit out of Jeremy.
Yeah. So Sack
almost knocks him out cold. Like he's conscious. He doesn't get a concussion.
He knocks the wind out of him.
And he's just like, oh.
And this all happens. So
right?
that part happens when Jeremy gets the wind knocked out of him after Claire gets the ball, and John playfully, tackles her.
Yes.
Well, it's a touch football game, so he doesn't actually tackle her, but he goes and wraps his arms around her, and and she's like, I think your brother's really hurt. He's like, nah, he's fine.
He's like, he can barely breathe right now. He's like wheezing, right? Dr. Quinn was back there. She's too drunk at this point. She's like, ooh.
Yeah, she's back there. She's just waiting for Sully to show up.
And Tank's like, I'm sorry. I don't know what got into me. I love Clary's response. Like, 5 generations of big breeding.
Yeah. So finally, Claire convinces John to go over and check on his brother. So he goes over to Jeremy. He's like, hey, good job, man, but you're kind of overdoing it. You're kind of overplaying it.
I'm going to kill you. And then they all call the game. Everyone's going in, and John's like, oh, great. They're calling the game because of you. Right? So it cuts, to the bathroom. Jeremy's in the bathroom. He's got, he's just basically, he's got his legs out. Like he's cut up all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you have Gloria patching him up.
Yep, Gloria's patching him up.
But then she starts saying,
up
I'm not wearing any panties.
He's like, wow, you're a virgin woman, and then you're not wearing panties the next. And she's like, oh, I'm not a virgin. It's like, you're not? She's like,
she
no.
Didn't say that yet. That's later. That's later in the movie. She doesn't admit it yet. She's like, you've made me completely. It's like, you've just unleashed me, right? And she starts flinging her hair in his face. She's like, let's slow down here a little bit. Like, you already drained me below deck. It's like, she admits it much later in the movie.
That's right.
She's not, right?
That's right.
And then she's like, he's trying to back her off, right?
Yeah.
Because right now,
and she starts to pout. She's like,
he's actually in a lot of pain.
And he's like, no, I'm just saying, let's wait. Let's let me
heal up a little bit. But she starts getting angrier, and he's got this big old gash on his knee. But that's not quite the point that it needs stitches.
No, but it's a gash. It's a cut. So she grabs the antiseptic and she squirts it
and then slaps his knee right off. It's like, and then he just says like, no, like I'm just feeling in my heart that there's something here.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be sincere, and I want to treat you well. And she's like, oh, Jeremy. I love you too.
So then we get Jeremy and John talking. After the whole bathroom scene, we get John and Jeremy talking, and about Sack.
Yes.
And how John needs a way to get Sack out of the picture for a little while, so that he can spend some time with Claire. And
very reasonable.
And Jeremy's like, well, get your eye drops. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. He's like, oh, come on, just a couple of drops in his drink, and he'll be in the bathroom for 24 hours. Which, by the way, don't ever do that to anyone, because it is poison.
Yes.
You will be poisoning them.
It's good to bring up the eye drops, because it's important that this happens here, but he always has eye drops with him at the wedding, because he will put some in his eyes to tear himself up, to see certain ladies see him tearing up at a wedding.
Yeah.
That was part of the montage earlier in the movie. That was
part of the montage.
So he doesn't want to do it at first, right? And so then they go to a dinner, right? And
they're at the dinner table, and they're
talking about things. The grandmother is there. We have not seen the grandmother yet.
Mm-mm.
And the grandmother is played by
Ellen Albertini Dow. Grandma Mary.
Who was she in?
She has been in a lot of stuff.
Yes, I know. I see her, and I should have had her up right away. I don't.
Yeah, she was. She was in The Wedding Singer.
That's what I was thinking. Was The Wedding Singer. She's a lot more. Well, she
was the piano teacher in The Wedding Singer.
I mean, she gives Adam Sandler her whole sexual history in The Wedding Singer.
Yeah,
she was actually in a couple episodes of Family Guy.
Yep,
she did some voices. More power to her. She's dead now, but more power to her. She lived to the age of 101. If she was still alive today, she would be 111.
Yeah.
You go, Ellen. Congratulations.
Yes. Congratulations, Ellen.
And this scene is kind of like what you would think of the perfect, just kind of dysfunctional upper class dinner.
Yeah. And before we get into the dinner, we've also, up to this point, we have met the butler.
Yes.
Randolph, played by Ron Canada.
Randolph, played by Rod. I'm sorry, not Ron. Ron.
Yeah, Ron Canada. And
which is appropriate that he was in National Treasure.
Yeah,
he is the perfect seg from our Nicolas Cage miniseries.
Yes. So Ron Canada is one of those actors that, you may not know his name, but you know his face. He shows up usually as a more minor character, but he's always
he's not like he's not one of those supporting a character actors that's going to have a significant role in the movie, but he'll be in at least a couple scenes.
Yeah, and he's always
you can recognize the face.
Always memorable. And this one he plays a Jamaican.
Yes. So, the dinner, and Tank's going off about his nonprofit about scallops.
Yes. So, yeah, he's talking about his scallops and how it's the only self-sustaining scallop farm in the world.
Which I love this aspect of it, because just scallops are just such a upper tier type of seafood or shellfish.
They're delicious, though.
They're absolutely delicious. That, of course, this is what he's thinking is super humanitarian.
Yeah,
and it's not like creating oyster farms, which are really, if you do them, are very beneficial to the environment.
Yeah.
And overall, eating some raw oysters is not that expensive.
Yeah.
I love raw.
Oh, yeah. Oysters are delicious. I love
seafood.
oysters.
Any raw bar, anyway.
Yes. Anyway, so
And so this is the point where John's just trying to get annoyed by him because he's acting so pompous.
Yeah. So when after he says it's the only self-sustaining scallop farm, then John's like, say that 5 times fast.
Self-sustaining scallop.
You can't. You can't, see? And
Claire thinks it's funny.
Yeah, Claire thinks it's funny. She starts chuckling a little bit. Zach just looks at him. And nobody else really pays much attention to it.
Because John looks at he knows it's completely ridiculous. He knows it's just a super douchey thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a perfect joke aimed at him.
Yeah.
And I don't think he understands that he's actually making fun of him.
Yeah. So.
And so finally they ask, like, well, how are you related to the family?
It's like,
oh, yeah, we're
Uncle Ned and like Aunt Liz's kids.
Let's go. Okay. And you're a venture capitalist?
That's right. Venture capitalists, not investment bankers. Venture capitalists.
Yeah. Well, and then, Claire at this point is like, oh, don't you think that's like, just so it's all about the money? It's like, no. And then John's like, quickly, it's like, well, no, we like to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And so they come up with this scheme where they get homeless people to knit clothing to sell to other homeless people.
Yes, they get homeless people. So no, they get sheep farmers to shear the sheep to get the wool. So they get sheep farmers to get the wool. And then they take it to homeless people who then turn it into thread. And then other homeless people use it to sew clothing.
I love how the Secretary Clear's like, I'm gonna mention this.
Yeah.
And speak of the house
this in the next meeting. And they call it Holy Shirts and Pants.
Again, one of those aspects of the movie that I completely forgot about. That's really funny.
Yes,
just the whole setup, and then they complete it with it being Holy Shirts and Pants.
Shirts and Pants,
because it's such a terrific double entendre.
Yes.
That's not dirty in any way.
No.
So, but it gets to the point where John finally gets fed up with Tank, and when Tank's not looking, he slips the eye drops in the Tank's.
Well, no, he did that before. So he did that at the beginning. They started the meal with a prayer.
Oh, let's start with
and
the
so
prayer.
when
That's
everybody's
right.
everybody's got their eyes closed, he looks around and he sees nobody's looking. So
he slips it in.
He pours that stuff in there. So once again, folks,
we
not ever do that. You will kill somebody if you do that. It is poison. It will not just have them puking their guts out for a day.
We finally get to the point where we get to the awkward portion of the evening where we start talking about the son Todd and how then the grandmother just starts calling him, a derogatory way. Just calls him a homo, right? And then
Claire's like, well, actually, Todd's a very good artist.
And he's like, right. And, she's trying to shift the conversation to something more positive, which is a good thing to do. And
yeah,
everyone's like, Grandma, I can't say that.
She's like, why? He's a homo. Like, Grandma, come on.
And, and then the secretary's trying to be supportive of his son in the way he can, even though he seems kind of embarrassed. And Todd just kind of goes like, you've always thought I was a liability, Dad.
Then he storms out. Right. He's like, where are you going, Todd? He's like, I'm going to my room to paint homo things.
Oh, we find out later what he paints.
Yep.
Because there was a moment that apparently everybody misses but Todd.
Yeah. And during this whole conversation, during this whole conversation, Jeremy is very quiet because Gloria, who's sitting next to him,
is giving him a hand job.
Is giving him an over the pants hand.
This is when they're talking about holy shirts and pants.
Yes. Yeah.
So he can't explain anything about it. So it's just left to John to talk.
And that's where the name came from, actually, because he starts like speaking, and John takes over. He's like, holy shirts and pants.
When he first started off, he's trying to shake it off, but then obviously at some point it starts feeling good. So everybody's getting eyes started. Yeah. His eyes started to kind of roll back. Like, holy.
Yeah. So Sack excuses himself to go to the bathroom because he
finally starts feeling like, I'm not feeling well. I have to excuse myself. And
so he goes to the bathroom, and then Claire decides she's going to get some air. Yeah. And John volunteers to go get air with her if she wants company. So
but he needs to go get some shoes first.
Yeah, but he's got to go get shoes first. And Jeremy is like, I'll just stay here sitting at the table.
Because, he just...
Getting up.
Kind of obvious that there might be something what.
Yeah. So he wants to be the last one to get up from the table.
So he change his pants. Only he had holy pants.
Yeah. So John is in his bedroom,
and Dr. Quinn walks in,
and Dr. Quinn, medicine woman, walks in, and
she takes off her shirt.
She says, "I just got my tits done," and he's like, "Oh, yeah, those are some." He's kind of trying to not make eye contact with them. He's like, "Yeah, those are some."
And then she takes
nice
off
tits.
her shirt. There's some nice tits, and he starts showing her Catherine,
and she's standing like right in front of him with them in his face,
less than a foot away. And she's like, "Call me cat, call me cat, kitty cat,
call me kitty cat."
It's like, don't you want to tell me how they feel?
Okay, kitty cat.
Don't you think the secretary's like, I don't care what he thinks.
I gotta go for a walk. He's like, you're not leaving here until you feel my tits.
So he just kind of slowly puts them up, and she shoves her chest into them. There's cupped hands. Yeah. He's like, "Oh, wait, those are like what?
Feel amazing." What doctor do you go to?
And then finally she looks at them, she pulls away, buttons her shirt up. It's like, pervert.
Yeah, and then storms off.
It's like what's what?
You see.
It's like rich people. So he's walking down the steps as Jeremy is walking back up. And he's just kind of shaking his head because he still has no idea like what just happened to him with Dr. Quinn.
Yeah. Yeah, so
and Jeremy's just like, I'm just going to bed.
Yeah.
I've had everything drained out of me.
Yeah, so then John is like, all right, so he tells Jeremy what Dr. Quinn, medicine woman, just did. And Jeremy's
like, oh, what? Like,
it's like, what?
Did you motorboat them?
You motorboat him, give him
John's like, what? No.
A little Texas two-step.
So, yeah. It's one of Vince Vaughn's little monologues in this movie. Talking about Dr. Quinn's boobs.
So then, John's like, no, I gotta go meet Claire. He's like, well, you go do that. I'm just gonna go to bed and ice my balls. Yeah, so
does he? I guess he does see her outside. They talk.
Yeah, so she's sitting outside on the steps waiting for him. She's waiting for him out on the steps. So he goes out and sits down next to her, and they're talking a little bit. And then Secretary Cleary comes out and tells her, "Hey, Claire,
like, I think you need to go see.
I think you need to go take care of He looks really bad. Yeah, Zach's looking really bad. You might want to go check on him."
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, okay. Well, Let's take a rain check on the walk. So she goes in, and John goes in to go to bed, and he's talking to Jeremy again. Or was it the next day that he's talking to him?
They talk later.
Yeah,
so
they talk later. So
this guy cuts to like
he's
typical.
He's like, yeah, you're. He's like, your airdrop idea backfired. She's in there taking care of him.
So and he kind of cuts to the typical middle of the night scene, or like middle of the movie scene. You have Coldplay playing.
Yeah, Coldplay,
right? And you have John. He kind of sneaks down the hall. He kind of puts his ear up to see if she's awake.
First off, John's tossing and turning. He can't sleep.
He tiptoes back.
He can't sleep, so he
she
gets
kind of
up.
Then,
yeah, neither of them can sleep. They're both awake.
Both,
yes. And so John goes. He sort of sneaks over to a room. He's about to knock, and then he decides not to and goes back to bed. And then Claire gets up, does the same thing, but she actually kind of taps on his door a little bit with her fingernails.
Yes,
and he kind of. It looks like he heard something, and he kind of perks up and looks over the door.
At this point,
he doesn't go answer the door or anything like that. He's wondering if he really did just hear something. And then Claire goes back to bed. But then
I like this vulnerable moment of John. Like this is when he starts. We're starting to switch now, but not the bro comedy, sex comedy now.
Yeah,
right
now it's becoming really more of the rom-com. And yeah, so and we're really starting to see that that these two have a connection. They are into each other.
Connection and potential feelings towards each other, despite the situation.
Yeah.
Right. So it ends kind of it ends this little montage in this Coldplay song with Sack puking in the toilet.
Yeah, puking into the toilet. Like he's laying down on the floor in front of the toilet and keeps on getting up and puking into the toilet. So,
is this when what happens first? Does Jeremy have the scene with Todd first or Gloria first?
Gloria first. So, not Todd. Jeremy wakes up and Gloria is on top of him, naked. And she has tied his.
It's clearly a body double. It's not.
Yeah, it's clearly, it's a body double. But yeah, she has tied his wrist to the bedpost.
Yes,
to the headboard,
shaking her boobs in his face,
and and this is when it's revealed that she was not a virgin.
No, not yet.
Yeah, no, this is
it's later. It's the next day.
Was it?
Yeah, because he says like, "Oh, you lost." No, you just feel this way because you lost your virginity to me, and she's fully clothed.
Right. That's right.
Yeah,
it is the next day. Never mind. Never mind.
And
so
she just is like, oh no, don't worry, this is going to be okay. And she shoves his sock in his throat,
and then duct tapes it. She gags him with his own sock,
as he says later in the movie. The sock that he sweated in all day, in his mouth.
Yeah. And so when she's done with him,
we get a scene that cuts later.
She leaves, and then
he's still tied to the bed.
Yeah, he's still tied to the bed, but she's taking the gag out of his mouth
with his own sock.
But he's sleeping, and he wakes up.
Todd comes in, and he thinks it's Gloria at first.
No, he sort of wakes up all groggily. He feels somebody in the bed with him, and he thinks it's Gloria, but it's Todd. Todd has made his way into the room and is snuggling up to Jeremy.
And he's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, and Todd's like, "We shared a moment at dinner." It's like,
we shared a moment.
It's like, no, we didn't.
No, we did not. He's like, "I painted you something," and he shows him his painting.
I love. He's like, "It's sexual and violent." I love that.
Violent.
It's not very violent.
Nope.
It's just
Vince Vaughn standing there naked with a leaf there over his crotch.
He's like dancing in the woods, and he just has a leaf covering his crotch. It's like I don't know what you're talking about. It's like you were where I was a year ago. I know you're ready. It's like no. Like, let's play tummy sticks. It's like I don't want to know what tummy sticks is.
And then that time, Senator Cleary is knocking on the door.
He gets a knock on the door, and
So,
And then Todd notices his dad. He's like, it's like, I'm gonna go in the closet. I'll pop up when it's ready. He's like, no, don't pop there in the closet.
So Todd goes in the closet, and Cleary walks in.
I love how this is
Jeremy is
perfect
still
Christopher Walken here.
Jeremy is still tied to the headboard.
He's still tied to the bed. Yes. And this is perfect Christopher Walken because he sits down at the foot of the bed and he looks over at Jeremy and he sees he's tied.
He doesn't mention it. Like, he doesn't mention it.
He just he kind of gives it a little shrug.
Yeah.
Okay.
But at some point during this conversation, we don't actually see him do it. But at some point, Jeremy is able to get 2 pillows over his wrists. So it's kind of hiding the ropes a little bit. But his arms are still stretched out.
Then, at some point, Todd kind of pops out. And then Jeremy looks at him and is like, Todd tells him to get back in.
So...
And
oh, and this whole time also, Jeremy has been terrified of Cleary because he he thinks that he's gonna think that he's a terrible dancer. Right.
That's right.
He's just trying to find things that he doesn't like about him. He's like, he hates my dancing. He's like, like in this conversation on the bed, and he's like, I saw you at the reception. You had the moves. Great dance.
Which I think is perfect because probably Christopher Walken's greatest non-film or TV role is his performance in the Fat Boy Slim video, Weapon of Choice.
Yeah.
Where he dances the shit out of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, scene ends, the night ends, right? So we cut the next morning and John's eating breakfast. It's a nice array of breakfast foods.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy doesn't really want to talk with him because he had a long night. they have a little argument, and Jeremy's ready to go right then. John convinces him to stay, and so John
they're going to go sailing.
Picks up a So they're going to go sailing. You gotta come with me. Jeremy finally agrees,
especially since Zach is still sick, so he's not going to go sailing with him.
Yes, that's right. That's important.
So
Jeremy loads up his plate of all these breakfast foods, pancakes, muffins, the whole lot. And then he gets a thing of maple syrup.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's clear that this is log cabin maple syrup.
Mm-hmm.
There's no label on it. I guess
it's
log cabin did not want to pay to have their maple syrup in this movie.
Maybe. But it's clearly the log cabin maple syrup, bottle.
It's not Mrs. Butterworth. It's not Aunt Jemima. It's definitely log cabin.
Mm-hmm.
This is not Aunt Jemima anymore. It's Pearl River or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
I like getting pure maple syrup.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, which just shows you right there that he's not that much of a mind of someone that would be having an emerging maple syrup conglomerate.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, so he loads maple syrup on this plate.
He dumps it all over.
I love maple syrup.
Yeah, he just covers everything with it.
So they end up going off on this sailing trip, right? And during this, at some point, Zach is still sick, but he gives a call to a friend. It's like, hey, remember that private investigator you hired? I need you to find out about these 2 guys.
Yeah. John and Jeremy Ryan.
So they're still back on the ship though. And at some point, Secretary Cleary, because he remembers his conversation with John from the day before.
Yeah, about boats, about sailboats.
How he likes boats. So it tells him to do a very simple, puts a very simple nautical term that any person on the boat would understand. Mm-hmm. Because he's never actually been on the boat. He doesn't really know what he means.
Mm-hmm. Turn the jib to starboard.
That's right, yes.
So John is sitting up front, up right by the jib.
Yes. And Claire's kind of sitting up that direction too.
Yeah, she's kind of halfway up. At the halfway point of the boat.
There's really no one between them. two of them, right?
And so
he starts doing it, and she can tell like doesn't know what to do
because he's kind of just trying to push it and kick it, and doesn't know what he's doing. So she comes over to help,
and she knows exactly what to do because
she's grown up on
enough boats,
and
she knows at least how to do these very what's basically a fairly simple move to do on a sailboat.
So together they accomplish what Secretary Cleary has asked.
I like how he says, like, "Oh no, I'm used to sailing down south.
Things in Australia. I'm used to sailing in Australia where things are opposite. It's like when you flush a toilet
down there,
the other way.
It goes backwards. It's really weird.
It's really weird the first time you see it.
So they have a nice sailing trip, and they get back to the house.
Well, they get back to the dock. They get back to the dock, and Sack,
he's ready.
He's out.
He's feeling good again. He's got a shotgun. Attire. He's got a shotgun.
He's like, let's go quail
hunting.
And so, they all decide they're going to go quail hunting. And Jeremy is very wary of, going quail hunting.
And like Sack, though, like he is pumped. And I love how Jeremy's like, I love how super environmentalist is really gung ho about
about hunting birds.
So let's go shoot some birds.
And he's like, well, they're an invasive species. Hunting them is actually helping the environment.
The area. It's like, and he's like, yeah, I can't wait. And he mockingly acts like he's pumped, right? So now they've got even hunting gear for them.
They've got hunting gear for them.
They're walking together.
And they've got guns. They give them shotguns. And
Jeremy's they're kind of walking. Like, I don't know what got me into.
John and Jeremy are kind of off by themselves. I mean, they're not far from everybody else, but they're kind of just off so they can talk.
And Tank is talking there. He's like, I don't know about these guys. So I'm going to take care of it right now. Right?
And so he calls, to the right, and everybody turns, and he turns and he shoots Jeremy right in the ass.
In the butt.
With birdshot.
Now, I'm sorry. Okay, it's funny. The scene is funny. Especially the aftermath when he's getting buckshot out of his ass.
Yeah.
But I can't, I get even that, I get that he's a douchebag.
But
I can't even think of
there is
douchebag being this big, shooting directly at him.
Yeah.
Like that.
I mean, I could see possibly doing something with ricochets, but not directly at him because that's way too dangerous.
I could see them
right there
maybe shooting high enough near them that it knocks like tree branches off.
Yeah. To fall on them.
Crashes near them.
Just shoot close on him to scare him, shoot the ground right by his foot or something. Try to scare him.
Because this is, I'm sorry, you're shooting him in the ass. Like, and they got another guy that's right next to him. Like, if you're off even just a little bit and you get a little bit higher up, either killing them or you paralyzing them.
Yeah. Or if you hit an artery,
Yeah, if you hit lower and hit the femoral, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, anyway.
And how does nobody else see him?
He's right there next to the other guy that sees him do this.
Yeah.
Does he kill this person to keep him silent?
Well, I mean, the guy that's with him is trapped. So, it's his buddy.
That's true. Yeah.
Because he tells him, hey, I got an idea.
Like, I don't know about this.
Yeah, but how does nobody else see it? Even if they're all looking up for quail flying away, they should still be able to see it in the corner of their eye.
And there's still be enough of a thing, like, he's a good enough hunter. Like, how do they miss and hit him in the ass? It's Vaughn just flying up in the air. And he gets shot in the ass.
Maybe.
Hey, he is kind of got his arms out in the painting.
Maybe he does.
The sore.
Maybe.
So anyway, meanwhile, while they're picking out all the buckshot out of his ass, John decides with Claire, it's a good time to go for a bike ride.
Yes. So he just leaves his best friend, who's pretending to be his brother, in the capable hands of Gloria and a pair of tweezers.
So
that he can go ride bikes with Claire.
But we follow the bike ride, and they get to a secluded beach. Now, ride bikes is not a euphemism here. They literally ride
They are
bikes.
actually riding bikes. They have
then
bicycles.
things get real on this beach.
Mm-hmm.
Because then she starts bearing her soul. It's like, he just starts asking. They starts prying.
Yeah.
And, it's like, well, how do you know? It's like, well, and she can't really answer honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
he's asking her about Sack. How,
and,
how they got together, what she feels for him, how.
And they met at some nonprofit. And so finally she's like, well, when it's clear that she's not maybe that enthused by him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he just kind of says, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pry.
Oh,
like,
what we
did.
didn't mention before was at dinner, Sack made an announcement that they were engaged.
Not yet.
No, that was at dinner.
Not the first dinner. This is later. This is afterwards, after they kiss. Claire and John need to kiss first on this beach.
Okay, yeah, I was getting the dinners mixed up. That's
the second dinner.
I forgot that there were two dinners. Yeah. You're right. It is the second dinner because it's later that day, isn't it? That night.
It is later that day.
Yeah. So
because they're talking on the beach, and then she kind of bears that she's kind of reluctant about this, about him, right? And John's just like, I didn't mean to pry. She's like, oh, yes, you did. And they kind of stare at each other, and then they go in to kiss. Camera kind of pans away, and they're kind of kissing passionately on the beach. And it cuts off.
But before that, they do the whole hand slapping game thing too, though.
Oh, it's the hand slapping game too.
To try to sort of break the ice and get her to open up.
Yes.
He's like, give me your hands. And he's like, oh, I know this game. And so he puts his hands down, palms up. She puts hers palm down. And, they do a little hand slapping thing. And that sort of, they're laughing and stuff. And then that's when she opens up. And, yeah, then they kiss. And then camera pans out.
But we don't know. Doesn't really say.
No,
I don't think it goes that far.
I don't think it goes that far. I think it's just a kiss.
So they get back. It's that dinner now that you're talking about, right? And so, Sack does the whole fork,
Mm-hmm. Got an announcement. Claire and I
we're getting married. And she doesn't know what to say. He's like, well,
Yeah.
I haven't talked about this with you.
Yeah.
And she just kind of goes with it, and everyone's applauding. And what we kind of missed to talk about was at that first dinner the night before, how Secretary Cleary talks about that might have these two great American families might come together.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So he's kind of happy about that.
Yeah. And one of the big things that was going on earlier with Sack trying to be all impressive and all that. Trying to, show how douchey he is. He's talking about this otter that he found that was covered in oil, and he cleaned it off. And
that's right, he cleaned it off, and he's making a little otter sound.
Yeah.
So the meal concludes, and Jeremy's like, "All right, we can go home now." And John's like, "No, I need more time." It's like, she's going to get married. She's getting engaged. Mm-hmm. No, I need that more time. I can, she doesn't want to marry this guy. Right. He's kind of being honest that he's and John realizes, Jeremy's like, he fell for this girl, didn't you? Right. So it's like, I was like, and Jeremy's just finally, I'm going to go get my stuff. I'm going to leave, right? And John's going to go out and talk to Claire because she went outside. She's going out on this swing, this tree, this swing that's on a tree, not a tire swing.
No.
Yeah, it's still attached to the tree,
It's a
right?
swing
You got
that's
the rope.
that's tied to the
You got
tree
the board
branch.
that you swing on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but Jeremy goes up and he's starting to pack his stuff, and that's when Gloria comes in, and she's sort of trying to butter up again. And he's like, I think this might be because that you lost your virginity to me.
And then this is what she reveals. No, I wasn't a virgin.
It's like, what?
It's like, oh, I just thought that's what you wanted to hear.
It's like, oh, I just thought that's what guys wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So what we missed earlier, this is part of the conversation also. Like, it's like, oh, my daddy warned me about guys like you. I'm just another notch in your belt.
Yeah.
And so when he's in the room the night before, right?
So when Cleary's sitting on the bed, he's like my daughter's
she's just not another notch in your belt.
Yeah. He's like, no, she isn't.
He's like, no, sir.
No, sir. She's not.
And now, so once she like reveals this, he starts thinking about these things, right? So he goes back down and he sees the priest there, the father there. And he starts bearing his soul.
Yeah. The priest, he's just sitting there at the table, and so he just sits there, starts
like
bearing
enjoying
his
some
soul
coffee or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, and what we forgot to mention is like earlier, she talks about how she had an imaginary friend when she was growing up. And like, we even had
Gloria
our own language together.
Gloria had a bunch of imaginary friends. But in one of them, they had their own language that only she could understand.
And then he's like, what? And when he's talking to the priest, like, I had my own imaginary friend. His name was so and so. Right? It's like, and he's like, you know what though? Like, she's crazy, but I actually dig that, and I think I'm actually in love with her.
But no, he's
just sitting there
explaining everything that they were doing. Like, he's confessing everything that they did. And yeah, that they aren't really John and Jeremy
Thank
Ryan.
You, Father. It felt good to get that off my chest.
Yeah. And then the next thing we know, the whole family.
So, John, he's out there with Claire at the swing. It's like, you can't marry this guy. It's like, what? Like, no, I just met you. Like, like, okay, so, but you're not sure about this guy. It's like, she's like, no. Well, that's a start. Yes. Right. And then we get a shot. You hear a shotgun get blown. Right?
Yeah.
And it's Grandma. Grandma has a shotgun.
Grandma's got a gun.
And she's chasing Jeremy out of the house. And so then everything comes to light.
Yep.
And Claire just looks, and Tank punches John in the gut about this, right?
Yeah. So
he gets up. It's like, no, don't you get up. And then Claire's like, wait. And it's like, okay, like, and she just starts asking, like, is all this true? Like, because Tanks is like, no, they,
it's a sack is like
they say they are.
Yeah,
they crash weddings to sleep with girls, right? As we find out, he kind of does the same thing.
Yeah, because like earlier, because like we've had like little interspersed throughout all this, he's been, talking to his buddies, about this girl last week, that.
And that bachelor party was all these strippers, right? So Claire just finally looks at John. It's like, is this true? And he says, like, well, it's complicated. It's like, no, it's a yes or no. And finally, he just says it. Matter of fact, and it's a good way of saying it. I think is like, yes, but with shades of gray.
Yeah.
Because he feels for her.
Yeah.
Like,
started out that way,
into it with the intention. But he fell for someone. He feels something for someone.
So things changed.
And so then Secretary Cleary's like, well, there's a boat coming in 20 minutes. You should be on that boat. And that's when Todd looks at Jeremy. He's like, Jeremy tried to seduce me.
Yeah, Jeremy tried to seduce me. And Jeremy's like, no, I did not. He's like, I'm taking my painting back.
I want my painting. Jeremy's like, I want my painting back.
He's like, that painting was a gift.
I'm taking it with me.
I love that. That painting was a gift.
And then I don't know, you know what? They get back their tuxedos that they went to the wedding in, right? They change, right? They make sure they make a point of that, right?
Yeah.
Because they can't leave those
No,
clothes because they're not their clothes.
they're not their clothes. So they put
they
their
get their
clothes back on, their tuxes back. And I love it. They're walking down the street, and Jeremy's carrying the painting. They're walking down the street toward the boat, and yeah, Jeremy's carrying the painting, and they're just defeated.
They're defeated.
Their whole plan backfired. And I love how
Jeremy kind of expresses his love to Gloria.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I love you too.
Yeah. But right? Also Jeremy's surprised that the priest told people what
that
he told
was
him.
A confession.
He's like, I told you that in confidence. When it was really, he just sat down and started talking. It wasn't any sort of confessional type situation. So anyway, the priest had absolutely no responsibility to keep that a secret. No obligation to keep that a secret.
So we get, this whole series where, John, he's been working, it's been a few months now, and he's trying to figure out ways to, get back and to communicate with Claire and explain himself to Claire, because he never really got the chance to fully explain himself.
Yeah.
Right. And so he shows back up at the office with Jeremy, and he shows that, oh yeah, there is this engagement dinner, right, between Zach and Claire.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they're going to be there. We can, he brings up, he has a whole kind of I guess like bellboy or waiter type suit.
It's a waiter suit.
Black tie type waiter suit.
It's a waiter suit.
For,
He's like, we're going to go in as waiters. And Jeremy's like, no, man,
no, I can't. You got to let this go. I'm telling you, got to let it go. Right.
So
it's like, no, like we're going to do this. It's like he leaves it there, for Jeremy. And then he leaves, right? And he cuts that evening, and he's in his own, and he sneaks into the kitchen.
So he goes behind. He goes into the back alley, into the alley behind the place, and the butler, Randolph, opens up the door and he lets him in. Because Randolph's cool. Randolph likes John.
And right now, Jeremy, he's kind of in the kitchen, and like there's the pastry chef's looking at him. And he's trying to pretend like he's dusting some type of dessert.
He's like the
with powdered
volcano
sugar.
lava cake thing. And I love the chef comes walks over. He's like dusting it with powdered sugar, and the chef kind of gives him an approving nod. He's like,
even though he's doing a very sloppy job of it.
It's a good job. That'll do.
You're new. That will do though. And so he once he kind of gets the eyes away from him, he kind of comes away from the table, and
he's looking through the window,
the swinging doors. They got the classic little round holes.
So he's
right,
looking through the window, and he sees Claire, and he's sort of watching, seeing what's going on, and Zach sees him.
Yeah, Zach just pops up out of nowhere and just puts his finger on the thing. He's like, "You!"
So Zach and his buddies drag John outside into the alley. His buddies hold John while Zach punches him. He punches him in the stomach a couple times. He tells him to stay away from Claire.
He's got the wind knocked out of him, and he's struggling to breathe because he's been punched in the gut and the balls, right? And they put the jacket back on the sack. It's like, did you see that bartender? It's like, yeah. You think you can get like, yeah, oh no, she'll come crawling to me, don't worry. Right? They always do. So then we get, John, he walks back to Jeremy's apartment, right? To see him because Jeremy wasn't there. And he wants to confront him about not being there.
Yeah.
So and he gets into Jeremy's, place, and there's music going on, and he walks into Jeremy's bedroom. And he's banging Gloria.
Mm-hmm. And
she sees him first, right? Because like, you know, Jeremy's back's to him, and she taps him on the shoulder, and he looks around, and they're, you know, in the shock, and she realizes that, oh wait, she missed her sister's engagement dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And now, you know, and John tried, you know, Jeremy runs out after him. He's like, oh, I tried it. I've been trying to tell you, you know, but he's like, no, fuck you. John doesn't want to hear it right now. So he leaves right then.
So yeah, he leaves,
right?
and
we get a montage of his depression.
Yeah, of his depression.
He's trying to crash weddings, but
by himself. He's trying to crash weddings by himself.
He's depressed,
and he just keeps on ruining everything. What's going on? He's
ruining everything.
Completely ruining the weddings.
We get a scene where he wakes up on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial.
And he's got a bottle of champagne.
There's a park ranger there. He's like, move along.
Yeah, there's a cop there that's like, move along. You can't be here. So he gets up, he picks up his bottle of champagne, and he walks off.
Right. So we finally get to scene. There's back to his apartment, and he's reading a "Don't Kill Yourself" book.
Yeah. Yeah. He's reading "Don't Jump."
It's called "Don't Jump." That's right. And Jeremy, knocks on the door and he lets him in. You know, it's John's birthday.
Yeah.
And Jeremy has the sleeping bag that's fit for Linda Hunt.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And he's like, "Hey, I'm here." And John's like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Tradition. You know, you don't want to waste 17 years of tradition."
And they actually start making up for a little bit. And so then Jeremy thinks, okay, things are going well.
And first, Jeremy's like,
some news on them.
Jeremy's like, oh, a little light reading material, huh? And John's like, oh, that's not mine.
I bought it for a friend. But things go well enough that Jeremy decides he can tell him some news.
Mm-hmm. So he's
going to get married.
Tells him that he and Gloria are getting married.
And John quickly switches.
And
like,
he would
get
love
out.
it if John could be there.
And John's like, no, get out. And Jeremy's like, it would mean a lot.
John's like, I've been here reading "Don't Kill Yourself" books while you've been out having fun and being happy. He's like, I thought you said it wasn't yours. I was reading it for a friend.
So he finally,
he's like, I skimmed through a little bit.
Jeremy says, like, it would mean the world to me if you could be there, because he still considers John his best friend.
Yeah.
So finally, then we cut, and John decides, well, you know what? He needs to speak with the Godfather, Chaz.
Yes. Because he tells he tells Jeremy that he's been crashing weddings, and he's like, "Who you been crashing with?" He's like, "Chaz." It's like, "No, you haven't been. You haven't been crashing with Chaz." It's like,
that's right.
I've been crashing with Chaz. He doesn't know Chaz. But yeah, so
he gets Chaz's address.
Yeah, so he decides he's got to go, and
he gets to Chaz's house.
Yeah, and Chaz lives with his grandma, which they established earlier.
No, his mom. This is his mom.
Oh yeah, it is his mom. That's right. Chaz lives with his mom.
And she opens the door, earlier. And she's like in a bathrobe and like curlers, that type of thing. And she looks like she's like 80. Not like 90 but she looks 80.
Yeah.
Right? Small little mother, right? And then he's like, is Chaz here? And she yells, "Chaz! He got a friend!" And she tells him to sit down. He sits down. And he's waiting. She goes off to the kitchen in the back of the house. It's like a city row home type of thing in DC.
Yeah.
Down the steps, you see this bathrobe, this velvet bathrobe. And it pulls up, and you see these nunchucks around the neck.
Yep.
And then you see the face.
And it's Will Ferrell.
It's Will Ferrell.
It's Will Ferrell. And Chaz. Uncredited.
Chaz doesn't recognize him. He's like, "Who are you?" It's like, "Oh, I'm friends with Jeremy." Like, Jeremy, wow, it's nice to meet you. Yeah, no, like he told me all about you.
Yeah.
And they start talking about like, oh, yeah, well, yeah, he's getting married. Chaz just laughs like, ha, that loser.
So yeah, so
It's like, yeah, it's like, well, yeah, I've been trying to, I've been trying to crash weddings by myself now. It's like, oh well, no, I've started crashing funerals.
yeah,
He's like, what funerals?
Well,
what are you talking like?
Well, before he starts telling about the funerals, he's like, "Hey, you hungry?"
It's like, oh yeah, my mom gave us some meatloaf.
Meatloaf,
Mom, meatloaf. And then they just start talking. It's like, and that's when it comes up like, yeah, no, I start crashing funerals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh no, there's so much more in funerals. Like, death is nature's aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
And then this lady comes by, this little Asian lady comes by, walks down, right? This Asian girl, right? They kiss, and she's like, I gotta go. I was like, oh, yeah, well, if you gotta go, you gotta go.
Yeah, gotta do what you gotta do.
I'll talk with you later. And he kind of like, slaps her in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
And then John's like, oh, wow. You're not kidding. It really does work. She's like, yeah. It's amazing. And he's like, where's mom? Where's the meatloaf? It's like, you know what? I will. And then it's like, I will have that meatloaf. And John's like, mom, meatloaf
now.
Fuck. And so then we get a scene.
He's like, come on, you gotta come with me. There's one Saturday.
You gotta come with me.
You gotta come with me.
I got one. That's right. Yeah, you gotta come with me. I have one lined up for Saturday. It's like, I don't know. It's like, no, you gotta come with.
So then,
like, okay,
we get them at a funeral, and Chaz has two women, one on either arm. They're both like hanging off him.
John has one, and she's kind of crying, and he's like, he's just looking. He's like, Chaz's like, damn, I forget the guy's name. He's like, damn you, George.
Yeah.
Why? And
then he keeps stopping.
He looks over at John. He kind of winks,
puts his fist up,
kind of thrusts his hips a little bit. But then John looks at the widow, and she's inconsolable.
Yeah.
So we get to cut to the next scene, and now John, he's in a suit again, and he shows up at a church. He's going to crash a wedding, but technically he's not really crashing this wedding because he wasn't invited to it.
Yeah. So he shows up, and it is Jeremy and Gloria's wedding.
And he first comes in, and some people try to put the Secret Service and security on him. But Jeremy's like, no,
this is the best man.
And Secretary Claire's like, okay, you know what? No, let him up. Well, he missed a scene too. The scene earlier in this movie, before this, where Claire is talking with her dad. They're I guess, shopping for flowers for her wedding, right? And they're talking about things, and she's asking him about how he knew and all this. And like he kind of gets, this is where you kind of get the real, like, dramatic Christopher Walken's like, Claire Bear, what's wrong?
Yeah. And
you can tell that he knows that she's conflicted about this wedding.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, you got to do what's best for you. It's kind of how he ends it.
Yeah.
Right. And so back at the wedding, he's standing up there, and you have Claire. She's the maid of honor, and so she and John are standing apart from each other. They're staring at each other. He's trying to, go psst, psst, psst. Like, I'm not here to talk to you. I'm just here for Jeremy.
Yeah.
It's like, but he continues to talk. it finally gets too much for her, right? So she kind of she's like, "Excuse me." She kind of walks down the steps, and that's when he starts baring himself to her. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what? No. It's like, you know what? No. I have crashed a lot of weddings. It used to be what I did until I met you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was I felt very different, that type of thing. Maybe he gets a little too honest. It's like,
Yeah.
yesterday I crashed a funeral.
Yesterday I crashed a funeral.
I was like, what? It's like, this is Chaz. And he looks back at Jeremy. He's like, he's giving a lot of ass. It actually works.
It actually works, yeah.
He's really messed up, but it works. It's like, wait, he realized, like, wait, no, I need to get back on track.
And so, yeah. So
and finally, she's like, you know what? I'm just asking, like, I'm not asking you to marry me. I'm just asking you not to marry him.
And then Sack comes
over
up
at Sack.
And
Sack's like, no one cares about what you think.
Yeah. And he comes up, he's gonna hit him again. So he's coming up and he's he's winding up, and all of a sudden here comes Jeremy. He just lays him out. He just lays Sack out. Punches him right in the face.
Yeah, remember, this is all the payback for that football game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He just punches Sack right in the face and he drops on his ass.
And what I love is, like, then the wedding continues from there. Bradley Cooper just laid out
but
on the floor.
No, then Cleary, Secretary Cleary, he gets honest with Sack. He's like, I could never stand you or your otters or your scallops.
Cleary that's right. Cleary gets honest with this before he gets laid out. That's right. Because Sack's like, no one cares about what you think. It's like, blah, 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 blah. It's like, you know what? No, Claire, get back up on that altar.
Yeah.
Right?
Get on the altar. Get on the altar, Claire.
And she's like, no. And I love how John, it's like, oh, it's a great preview of what marriage is going to be like with Ike Turner.
Yeah.
And then he looks at the secretary. He's like, Secretary Cleary. It's like, I've always liked you. I've always put up with the BS stories, right? But I stand by my daughter. And that's what that gives her to be like, no, I can't marry you. And it's like, and that's when he says, like, you don't know what you're talking about. And that's when he starts to go in to try to punch out John, and Jeremy steps in, knocks him out. Doesn't really knock him out, but knocks him down, stuns him. He can't get up, and then they proceed with the rest of the wedding. And they get married. Or at least Gloria and Jeremy get married. Yeah. And then they leave the church with John and Claire.
Yeah. They're all in the car together.
And they're going to talk about what weddings they're going to crash as a couple, as a, double date.
Talking about there's a wedding up there, and there's a wedding not too far from here. And, they're supposed to have a great spread. Because now they're not going to hook up with girls. They're just going to go get some free food.
Hey, well, what's funny about this? So the one of the writers about it, like, that's one of the things that drew his inspiration on it when he was working in DC at the time, and before he started getting into writing, and he would crash lobbyist dinners.
I love how they're driving in the convertible, right? And they're John and Jeremy are talking about this wedding, right? And Claire's kind of, you're not sure how she feels about it, right?
No, you don't.
And they're trying to figure out, what their alias is going to be, like who they're going to be. And then Claire chimes in. She's like, "We're a family of musicians. We're a family of folk musicians."
That's right, folk musicians.
And so that, then she's all in.
Yes.
So, and then, they drive off, and that's the movie. Credits roll.
That's the end of the movie. And it's hilarious. It's a terrific 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good timing.
It's a very, it is. So. It's a very good length for that story. It's not too long. It's not too short. It's well paced, and it's funny. It's very funny.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a little bit for everybody.
You do. You really do.
You got your guy humor, then you got your rom-com, then, you get everything in between.
That's The Hangover. And you know what I like about this? I know at some point they talked about a sequel. The sequel has never happened. It does not need a sequel.
It does not. It doesn't need a sequel.
It's perfect as is. It's not a movie you need to lessen with.
I mean,
with a sequel.
If they did a sequel, it would need to be about different characters, but then that wouldn't work. Because what made this movie was Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson and their chemistry.
It is well past the point of needing a sequel. And I think, especially with comedy, sometimes you try to do a sequel, and then the sequel just tries too hard to be the first one.
Mm-hmm. And then it fails.
This is just one movie. And and it's still a classic. It's held up so well.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it, I recommend checking it out. It's a funny movie. It's enjoyable. It's
in some ways, like, it really is
lows
I mean, depending on how you look at it, like, I mean, I know Owen Wilson's had a lot of different movies, but in terms of movies where he's a lead, it's probably his peak. Probably the peak for Vince Vaughn where he's a lead. Right? Probably one of the peaks for Rachel McAdams.
Mm-hmm.
It's really like the pinnacle for a lot of these actors and actresses.
Yeah. Plus, it's always great seeing Christopher Walken.
Oh, yeah. No, it's got some of his best stuff. Again, like the scene with him and Vince Vaughn in the bed in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Scene where he's having a cigar with Owen Wilson.
Yep.
And it's very good stuff. So check it out.
Yeah, so that's Wedding Crashers. So if you enjoy what you're hearing and you want to follow us on social media, go ahead and check us out on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. We are Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. The and is spelled out. A&D, it's not an ampersand like it is in the name of the podcast. We're also on X or Twitter. That is R&T Cinematic. And you can also check us out on Letterboxd. Check out some of our reviews on various movies. Some we've done on the podcast, some we haven't done, some we will do, some we won't do. But that is Cine Adventure or Cine Adventure, CINE Adventure. And if you'd like to, you can send us an email at robandtonyscinematicadventure@gmail.com. Once again, the and is spelled out. A-N-D, it's not an ampersand like it is in the name of the podcast. So, yes, shoot us an email. What did you think about Wedding Crashers? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Was it the funniest movie you've ever seen? What do you think? We want to know.
I would particularly like to know, like, where's it rank with your comedies?
Yeah. What do you think of it? We want to know your opinion. And, if you enjoy what you're hearing, then go ahead and go to our social media, give us a like and a follow. Go to your favorite podcasting app, wherever you're listening to us. Give us a good rating, a good review. That's how we move up in the standings and the search and the recommendations, all that stuff. And just keep on listening to the podcast if you enjoy what you're hearing. We love bringing these conversations to your ears and, want to be able to continue to do that. So next time we are going to be continuing on with our summer blockbusters with a superhero movie. So we have, in just a few weeks here from the time of this recording, the new Superman movie will be coming out. James Gunn's Superman movie for the new DCU. In preparation for that movie, we are going to go back to another Superman movie from the past. Now we've already done one Superman. We've already done one. Past. Yes, we did Superman the movie a while back. So if you haven't heard that episode, go ahead and listen to it. It was a great one. I love that movie. So now we are going to go with the sequel to that movie, Superman 2. But we are not just going to be doing the Superman 2 that everybody knows. We are going to be doing the Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut.
That was probably from around the time Wedding Crashers came out. What,
Yes.
2005?
So 2006 was when, I believe it was 2006, was when the Donner Cut was released. So, so it's become much more readily available to stream or rent or purchase than it was back in the day. It used to only be available in a Superman anthology DVD set, but now it's actually been made available.
We'll definitely talk about how it came about, though.
Yes, we will definitely talk about how it came about.
And, we'll talk about the two kind of together. But,
yeah, so they are the same movie, but they are a little
in a lot of ways, the Donner
different.
Cut has kind of become the definitive version of it.
Yeah, because, we'll get more into detail about it when we talk about it. But yeah, Richard Donner was originally brought on to direct both the first and second movies, and they filmed both of them simultaneously. But when he was about 75% done with the second one, he and the Salkinds had a falling out, and they fired him and put Richard Lester on the project. So Richard Lester came in to finish the movie. So most of it was still Richard Donner's version, but then Richard Lester finished the movie, and that's what we got in the theatrical version.
Because of the dispute, they put his name on it. And anyway, that's a whole thing to get into next week.
Yeah. So we'll get into all that. So there are differences between the two versions, but they are essentially the same.
Last summer we did Superman 1, or Superman the movie. We should do its sequel.
Mm-hmm.
We could easily do any of the other more recent Superman movies, like Superman Returns or Man of Steel. But I think we felt it was appropriate to actually do the follow-up to the original Superman movie.
Yes, especially since this new Superman movie seems to be a little bit more in the vein of the Christopher Reeve Superman.
Yes. I'm sure we'll talk about Superman Returns, which we kind of did last time also.
Yep.
But I'm excited about it. So
I am too.
Because who doesn't love some Superman?
I know. I know I do. So...
And, I'm glad we're going back with a slightly older blockbuster as well. So.
Yep, me too. Which, I guess technically the Donner Cut, would that count as a blockbuster? Superman 2 definitely was a summer blockbuster, yes. But, yeah, it's still Superman 2.
There's a lot to talk about.
It's just a different version of it. And we will be talking about, the differences between the two. So I guess we will be talking about the Lester version also. So it still counts. It still counts as summer blockbuster. So, anyway, join us next time for Superman 2, the Richard Donner Cut.